So I want to touch on and review a couple of the things that we talked about in classes. So more specifically, static properties and methods. We didn't talk about properties, but those are also available. Like we did the generate password thing with as a method, but you also have that available to you as a property. You can do properties with it too. I was really frustrated with Code Academy with how they did getters and setters, and so I want to just showcase better what I believe that those should be used for. They shouldn't be used for what they were doing. I think what they were doing was bad. Understanding the constructor a little bit more and what it can do, what it can't do, and then the prototype. So we didn't talk at all about the prototype, and I will be using that word a lot. And I just want you to know what it means when I say it, right? So first off, let's go to static properties and methods. So first off, I already said that. So let's say class. Let's say we're like in a Cartesian coordinate plane, and we're creating points in that space, and we're creating vectors and whatever, right? So let's say class point. Okay, so we have a point, and so constructor is going to take x and y, and both of those are numbers. So this dot x equals x, this dot y equals y. Okay, so we can say I want to create a random point anywhere on the plane, and let's make it normalized to be between 0 and 1, right? So never anything beyond that. If we want to do other things to it, we can later, okay? But what the heck did I just do? Okay, that was annoying. So I'm gonna make a random point. Okay, so we're gonna make this a static method. So static random. Okay, and it's going to return new point, and it's gonna be math.random and math.random. Okay. Notice how I have a comma here as well as a comma here. I just like to put commas at the ends of lines to make it so it's for get specifically. I know that there is not a third parameter, but it's for get. You'll understand that later. All right, so you have a class point. Okay, so now I could say const a equals new point 1 1. I could do that, or I could say const a equals point dot random, and so that'll return a point. Okay, and you can see I've got these inlay hints. I really love this thing. You can see that is of type point. Okay, so let's add a method onto this called scale and magnitude. Okay, and I'm going to return the same magnitude, but basically, actually, instead of scale, actually, no, yeah. So I'm going to say this dot x times equals magnitude, and then this dot y times equals magnitude. So, and then I'm just for fun, I'm going to return this just to make it so I can utilize, say I say a dot scale, it'll still be the same point. Okay, just for that reason. Okay, so we've got that. So what if I want to let's create another one called vector. So class vector. So a vector is basically the same thing as a point. However, it's you can really think about it as the same thing as a point. So I'm going to extend point. Okay. It seems weird to say that it's the point, but or it's the same thing as a point, but basically a point is like, say it's here, a vector is between that and here. And this is always 0, 0. So basically they're the same thing. Okay. So I'm going to say class vector extends point, but I'm going to say magnitude. So I'm going to get magnitude. So this is the magnitude of that of the vector. Okay. This is what getters should be used for. So now I'm on here. I'm going to get into properties in a second. So this is what getters should be used for. So I'm going to return math.square root this dot x squared. That's not right. Squared and plus this dot y squared. Dang it, I keep doing that. Okay. Why isn't GitHub Copilot working? That's really annoying. Okay, so I can get magnitude, and then I can set magnitude. Say I want to set magnitude equal to a number, okay? Actually, I'm just going to call that num, okay? So we're going to assume, I'm going to set it to there, but first I need to know the difference between the two. So const mag current equals this dot magnitude, and then this dot scale, and it's going to be num, I think it's current divided by number. No. Num divided by current. So if I scale it divided by the current magnitude, it'll be normalized to 1, and then it will, yeah. So if I scale 1 over the current magnitude, it'll be exactly 1, and then it will reset it. So this is what getters and setters should be used for. So I can say console.log a.magnitude. What? And I will see a number, okay? Because this is returning some sort of calculation. All right. Actually, that's not even going to work because it needs to be vector. Vector. Okay. So that's what basically that's what getters and setters should be used for. Now back to properties. So you can say you can have static get thing and return something. You can have getters and setters as static properties. You can also have static my property as equals hi. You can basically do the same thing as this, but instead it'll be on the namespace. So you can do point dot my property, and that will be hi. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, the capital H. Okay. So basically, static properties or static properties and static elements, methods are basically treating point as an object, and you're assigning values and stuff to them. Okay. So now let's understand the constructor. So the constructor, you can see that in here. The constructor has to be synchronous. So if you haven't watched the promise synchronous video yet, that's probably because I haven't made it as of this taping, but by the time you watch it, you will have seen it. Basically, the constructor has to be synchronous. It cannot be asynchronous, okay? So you can't like await inside of it. And also you can't, it's not really a function that you can return something. I mean, you could say return here and none of this would be run. But that kind of defeats the purpose of a constructor, because like a return statement is designed for inside of methods to give whatever, be able to assign something to whatever you're returning, right? Well, that's the whole point of the constructor anyway, right? So if I say new point, right, or say new vector, it's going to, this is already returning something. And so the constructor, if I say return, it does absolutely nothing besides stop the execution. So it's kind of weird. If you need to have some sort of conditional statements, you can put them in the constructor, but returning is not, it's actually in how I write TypeScript, I make that illegal. It will throw an error in compile time. So Yeah, the constructor, it's the function that generates it. It has to be synchronous, and there's not really a point to a return statement. Now the prototype. Prototype is basically all of the properties and methods that is contained on an instance of a class. I'm going to repeat that. It's all of the properties and methods that is contained inside of an instance of that class. So these two static properties, or static method and static property, these are not a part of the prototype. This scale is a part of the prototype. So let's get rid of all of this crap. So if I say const r, I'm gonna switch this to TypeScript so you'll really clearly see it. Okay, so const r equals yeah. Oh, now GitHub Copilot's working. Thank you. So const r is a number array, and I can say r.push. Okay, push is a part of that prototype. Okay, it is push is part of the array prototype. I can't do array.push. That doesn't make sense. But I could change how push works by doing array.prototype.push and change the function. And it would suck. You shouldn't do this. But in theory, that is a possible thing. It throws an error because, like, why would you possibly do this? Like, there's really no reason. But so the prototype is basically if you say whatever your class name is .prototype, that is what is contained inside of there, and you can alter how those functions work. Don't. If you need to change how those functions work, do it in the class itself. Don't do it at runtime because that's stupid. So yeah, array.push 6, that is a part of the prototype. And same thing with this, r.length, that is a part of the prototype as well. So although something stupid about arrays and JavaScript in general, it is not a getter like it should be. It says gets or sets the length of the array. So evidently this is this a getter? No. Yeah, so I really hate this. So you can actually assign r.length equals 1, and if you console.log r, you'll see only the first instance. It's dumb. I really don't like that. But anyway, that is a part of the prototype. So the prototype is basically the properties and methods that are a part of the instance of the object that you are creating. Okay, not the static method. Okay, it does not include the constructor. So you can also say array.constructor. Whoops, sorry. Wait. Const r equals array r.constructor. You can see that this has some other things to it. Okay. You can call the constructor and do different other things, and it's kind of stupid. But you can see that basically the constructor is the original thing, if I remember correctly. So if I say class person static oh, and in TypeScript you have to do this. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about those types now, but those are useful for other things. So const p equals new person, hi, okay, p.constructor dot name person. So if I do species, okay, so now I understand. So the constructor isn't this, that is the class. So that's interesting. Anyway, I was just doing a little experiment to make sure that the constructor was what I was thinking it was. Yeah, so the constructor is basically the function that builds the class. Okay, it is different than the prototype. The prototype is basically what the constructor builds. Yeah. Okay. Or the object itself and the properties of the object itself. So, static properties and methods, you can have static properties, you can have static methods. Basically, you're treating the class name as a namespace for you to organize your functions. Getters and setters should be used for like advanced calculations, or if you really want side effects, which are generally not recommended, you can generate side effects when you set something. Useful for doing the view model controller concept, which we'll get into later. You have the constructor, which is what builds the object, and then you have the prototype. And so the rules around the constructor: you can't have it asynchronous. And you shouldn't really return anything out of it because there's not really a point. And then prototype. Prototype is the what is it? It's all the properties and the methods that are contained on the object itself on the instance of the object itself. Okay, that the constructor is returning, that the constructor is generating or constructing. So, just a little bit more information around classes that I believe that is important for what you will be doing. So, yep, classes.